Doctor Who fans, I had to do this Who Universe news because some big developments have come out in the last few days that are I personally going to probably massive stuff to think about heading into the rest of the month because I mean the series ends at the end of the month, but there is going to be proper potentially some huge implications going into the regarding where the future stands for Doctor Who because we don't know where the future stands for the show, but I think today's news may give us something to talk about heading into what the end of the month could look, well, what end of the series could feel like for Doctor Who, because there's definitely some big stuff happening for Doctor Who later this month. First things first, yeah, we might as well obviously acknowledge the fact that, of course, Lucky Day will be this weekend. Pictures have only started coming out for it, and interestingly, Man, who the character you could say ties, who sort of gets into some sort of a relationship with Ruby's son, Corda, is being labeled to be a Doctor superfan. So basically similar to the Doctor Who fans we saw in the Lux episode with the whole Mr. Yeah, I don't want to say that name because oh god, here he comes again.
I'm Mr. Ring-a-Ding, I make your heart bells sing. Please don't make.
At least that stops him for now. But yes, that's certain someone. But yeah, of course we saw the super fan. He's also this character is also a super fan as well, which is very interesting. We go from a group of Doctor Who fans or fans of the Doctor to another fan of the Doctor who is now Timey Sunday. Very interesting that now they're, and this is apparently what leads to this eventual podcast that he builds because of his obsession with the Doctor and his site. Interesting that seems to be a recurring thing. Now, the time slots, however, for next week's story, the story in the engine, this is the one that is said to be centered around a Nigerian god, or at least the one thing Ncuti said when he first got the role he would like to happen to him as the Doctor. So it looks like that wish is going to come true heading into next week, because the synopsis for this story, by the way, kind of does tie in what Ncuti wanted when he first went into the role, and that is the sort of the Egyptian, the Nigerian god or goddess or something along those lines. But the synopsis kind of says this: in Longos, apparently is the name of the country, mysterious Barber retains supreme. The Doctor discovers a world where stories have power, but can he stop the spider and its deadly webs of revenge? Laga, Nigeria, 2019 is an ideal to get bearing of Adukia, pronounced that right, but apparently this is a virtual step to returning Belinda home. So apparently this is going to be a part in their journey to get Belinda planet Earth, apparently, or at least that's what the story implicates. The Doctor decides, and then it goes in to talk about the fact that he tries, and then also apparently they talk about Doctor meeting an old friend of his called Omar. Apparently he has a friend called Omar we don't know about. Apparently he's good friends with him. We never heard about this. So yeah, that's pretty interesting that he has a friend called Omar. He never mentioned this in his time travels, and then he goes to a place called Omar's Palace, which is like barber shop in a way, which I could see why he made friends with him, because hey, he's a barber, he probably cuts his hair. Yeah, very interesting nevertheless that we're now starting, that the Doctor has a friend called Omar now. Maybe there's a reason behind that. Yeah, nevertheless, it's going to be interesting, this story, to see how things go. I feel like it's going to be a really great story for Ncuti, especially if it's based on Nigerian gods. I think it's going to be a really, really good one for him. I have a feeling it's going to be his finest performance next week. Nevertheless, that will be airing again 7:10, Saturday the 10th, if you want to see the story and the engine, which is of the 8 episodes for series 2. Now, this is where it gets even more crazy. What we do know about the finale is that it might very well air at 7 p.m, and that is because of a cinema screening that's happening for the 2 finale episodes, which will be happening on Saturday the 31st of May, because the Doctor Who Cinemas website has actually updated to confirm that yes, they are going to be showing the final 2 episodes in the cinema on that day. They say it's going to start screening at 6 p.m. with the Wish World follow into Reality War, which might very well have confirmed that yes, it's going to probably air at 7 p.m. at the same time BBC One and iPlayer, which means it's going to be cybercast the whole final episode Reality War, which kind of makes sense now why they're doing it. As far as what they say on the website in terms of this finale, they're not really giving too much away, really. I mean, they're kind of saying like, it's experience time and space on the big screen when Ncuti Gat was the Doctor, Vanessa Selfer as Belinda Chandler, and Millie Gibson as Ruby Sunday celebrate an epic two-part end of a series season finale at local cinema on the 31st of May. Watch the final finale of Series 2, the reality war on the big screen. Belinda has been kidnapped by robots. They apparently put the synopsis for the whole series, apparently, up by robots facing a terrifying gods and a creature poor or evil on her travels with the Doctor. With the TARDIS still unable to get her home to Earth, Belinda must fight for her life as the Doctor faces an almighty threat to reality itself. Again, they're not really saying who this enemy is, but they're teasing an almighty threat is coming in the reality wars. So there's obviously something big happening, and it's going to be airing 29 days from now, so not long to go until we see what is behind the reality war. Who knows who it could very well be? I mean, it could be anyone at this the enemy that we could see return. But there has been a lot of question marks about this episode because recent discussions that's come out in recent weeks talking about, well, there's been this sort of conversation about whether or not Ncuti Gatwa could potentially be regenerating in the finale of this series. And the reason why there's that conversation going on is because of the fact that there might be talks of Disney dropping out, working with BBC to sort of help production values of Doctor Who. So there's talk about that going on right now that's starting to question people whether or not we're going to see Disney continue their partnership with Doctor Who, or whether they're going to after this series. We don't know for sure yet. There has been that sort of concern going on right now regarding where does Disney stand about the their sort of how they stand about the future of the show, because it's there's a lot to take in with it. And I mean, they've only just recently announced this in the last 3 days, so this has been huge news that's been coming out the last 3 days about the finale. Yeah, they are basically cybercasting this episode, so they're trying to avoid the whole early BBC iPlayer release for this story, which that tells you a lot about what they're trying to achieve. They try to avoid any spoilers about this story as much as possible because it's a big deal for them, and rightfully so, because it's going to be huge. Honestly, it's going to be a huge story what they're trying to achieve with the reality war, and hopefully it's going to do very, very well. TV Zone, a article not too long ago, they actually put out an article where in previous days where they talked about the fact, well, they obviously talked about the fact they weren't going to show this episode on with its early release on BBC iPlayer at 8 p.m. They were going to try and avoid that for this finale, but then there's been that conversation again about we see Ncuti Gatwa potentially leave the show. Is he going to leave at the end of the series? We don't know just yet. Let me know in the comment section. Do you think Ncuti's leaving at the end of this series? Do you think it's all like publicity start to get us all questioning about where the show goes from here? I mean, it's anyone's guess really where things go from now, but I'm willing to bet there's going to be hopefully some news coming up where they will have to talk about the future of the show, and they're going to have whether Doctor Who's going to be back in time for Christmas or not, or whether we're not going to see an episode at the end of the year. They're going to have to say something because there's been all sorts of conflicting reports in the last few months, and they're going to need to clarify a lot. Yeah, I'm hoping we're going to hear some news soon. That's what I'm hoping. But either way, there'll be a link in the description if you want to get yourself tickets to be at the cinema in your local cinema to be able to watch the finale of Doctor Who Series 2. There'll be links in the description. It will happen on Saturday 31st, and if you're lucky to get the tickets, you'll be able to be there for the big screening of the final episode of this year's Doctor Who series. He has been chosen to be the UK's jury spokesperson for the UK. Ncuti Gatwa was going to actually appear on the Eurovision Song Contest as our country's national jury on the Saturday the 17th of May, which kind of makes sense because, again, the Interstellar Song Contest is going to air today, so it makes sense why they chose him to represent our country, to be there in the Eurovision Song Contest final. So yeah, that's pretty cool that he's going to be a part of. Yeah, so you'll get to see him deliver the results from the UK to the rest of the world on Saturday the 17th of May. It's going to apparently air 8 p.m. Apparently the Eurovision Song Contest is going to air. So apparently this episode, the episode coming up on that day, is apparently going to air. Potentially, there is a potential it could air justly around 7:30 around that time of what they're trying to aim for. So we'll see what happens. But they haven't really given us a proper time slot yet because of FA Cup finals, so they can't be sure just yet. It's looking likely it's going to be around the 7 p.m. slot, and then Eurovision is going to probably air at around 8 p.m. that night. So it's going to be around that time when you can expect Eurovision. Then obviously when the results happen is when you'll see Ncuti obviously deliver the results from the UK to the rest of Europe. So that's going to be something to look forward to if you're a fan of Ncuti Gatwa, and he's going to represent us the 17th to deliver the results to the rest of Europe. Congrats to Ncuti for getting that role, and also hopefully the Doctor Who Eurovision themed episode will hopefully air that for Doctor Who. Gus crossed, it does air. I know there's been a lot of concern about whether it's going to that it will air that night on the BBC, even though I mean at least it will come out on BBC iPlayer, so at least you'll be able to watch it first thing in the morning that day. Should it not air on BBC One that night, so at least you have a way to watch it. Hopefully it does air on BBC One that night. Hopefully, yeah. So that's some good news regarding Ncuti Gatwa, that he's going to be our spokesperson for the jury part of Eurovision this year. And by the way, the semi-finals, by the way, starts the 13th. Should you want to start watching this year's Eurovision, then of course we obviously have to talk about the real-time pictures. They've actually released it's interesting because they've actually released a book about real-time pictures called Myth and Legends, where they obviously they talk to the producers, the guys who worked on the real-time pictures, about all the different films they've made. They've got a couple of black and white pictures, a lot of color pictures. They also talk about how what it was like to film with John Pertwee, Nicholas Bryan, who plays Brigadier. They talk about that, and Sergeant Benton when he did his special for them, and the Santarans special that they did for real time, and the Yeti, and all these other classic Who creatures who got the chance to work with real time pictures to do like these mini spin-off Doctor Who projects over the years. So you can read about it as part of a book that is available for you to order, and they're going to be launching this book as part of the Whodeville 16 convention in Derby on the 30th of August, should you want to get your hands on it at the convention, where the book will be present at the event. So that's going to be something to look forward to there if you want to get your hands on that. And then of course there's a sale going on, Big Finish Audios, if you want to get your hands on it, because obviously the eBay store from Big Finish has their last few CD set where they have a 10% off multi-buy off should you want to get your hands on these offers at eBay for Big Finish CD releases, should you want to get them. And also they've released the front covers, by the way, for some in fact they've added some new Who stories to the Target novel collection, not just Robot Revolution and Lux and The Well, but they've also added The Empires of Death has been added to that collection now, so you can now order yourself The Empire of Death as part of Target releases of 2025, should you want to get your hands last year's final episode, part of a Target book for this year, which is also coming alongside the first 3 episodes of this year's, now also getting Target book releases this summer, which is going to be great. And then of course we're still waiting for the release date for the Doctor Who Series 2 DVD Blu-ray. Hopefully we will get some release dates. Oh, in fact, speaking of release dates, we might actually have a release date, funny enough, because Amazon is now, well, it's interesting because on the merchandise, the Doctor Who store, it's interesting because on their store they're being told that Doctor Who Series 2 DVD Blu-ray and Steelbook case might be coming out on the 18th of August this year. So apparently they're going to be possibly releasing the home media release of this year's series in time August, potentially. If that's indeed true, then that means that we're going to have to wait another 2 more months after the series until we can get our hand this year's Doctor Who box set, which is for the new episodes of Doctor Who, which would be a bit bizarre why they're waiting until August to do it. There must be a reason for why they're doing this. We'll have to wait and see whether this date's official. Nothing's been made officially from BBC's end yet, but I'm sure they'll let us know when the dates and special features have been revealed, and hopefully front covers will come out soon for the Series 2 DVD Blu-ray and Steelbook case set, so you can get your hands on this year's episodes should you want to rewatch them over the summer. But it's so apart from that, really, that is pretty much all the news we've got. And of course I'm going to have my review tomorrow for Lucky Day. Be interested to see what happens in Lucky Day, considering this story is obviously going to be very to the series finale. Consider Millie Gibson's Ruby Sunday is going to be a part of the final. We know that Kate Stewart and Mel Bush are going to be a reality war, because we saw a little bit of footage in the trailers before the series start, which shows Mel Bush in the episode in some capacity. So we know Mel Bush will be there. We know Kate Bush is likely to be involved. Other members of UNIT who are likely to be a part of that story. So chances are this story is probably going to tie into that finale. And so have a good rest of your day.